welcome back to Clappin Bombs. We got video now. Well, you're going to be on YouTube and start uploading some different platforms going forward. But I'm AWOL. To my left here is Eric, and then Robbie on the end down there. Looking forward to providing you guys with some good hockey content. We're getting towards we're in the middle of the off season, getting closer to start. We're a couple months out. I think October we had our first games coming up. So pretty much free agency is done. There's a couple people left, but what we're going to do is we're going to start off with, kind of an overview of what happened. So to start things off, we're starting the Atlantic. Looks like Montreal's up first. So, Eric, why don't you kick us off?
So Montreal made actually a lot of moves that I didn't expect from them this offseason. Nothing too extreme. I think it's pretty obvious that they're still going to be the worst team in the division, but they made moves that I liked. They got rid of a bunch of stuff that they didn't really need. They cleared off Petrie's contract. So if you look at what they did, they acquired, obviously, the first overall pick of the entry draft, Uri Slavkovsky. They acquired Mike Matheson and Kirby Dach. They re-signed Rem Pitlick, and they lost Jeff Petrie, Ryan Poehling, Cale Clegg, and Alex Romanov. So all in all, I think that they did pretty well turning Petrie into Matheson, which honestly is kind of a wash. I don't think that that's a trade that matters too much. They get a little bit younger. I actually would kind of assume that they'd be trading Matheson probably at the deadline or something to a team that's planning on competing. But they got younger. They got better. Trading Romanov basically 1-for-1 for Dach was ideal for them, I think, especially if Dach rebounds. I know a lot of people said that Chicago was getting rid of Dach because they thought that he was a bust, but he's like 22 years old. I don't think you can call anyone under the age of 25 a bust.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, people say the same thing about, oh my God, what's the kid from New York? I can't.
Lafreniere.
Yeah. I mean, same situation, right? I mean, Lafreniere had a better year last year, but I mean, I think the two biggest pieces of news this year for the Montreal Canadiens going into the season is Carey Price is probably not going to be playing again. I think they almost confirmed that completely. That's a huge loss. I don't know who they're going to have in net this year, but Carey Price is obviously one of the best goaltenders in the last 10 years. So it's rough to see him not play again. And Kirby Dach, I think, like you said, Eric, I mean that's a huge acquisition for them. I don't think it really makes or breaks the team, but having him kind of in this rebuild phase that Montreal's in is going to be really big for them, especially with what they got. What they traded for him is virtually nothing.
Yeah, I mean, just like in general, they were the clear number one winners of draft day. There's no doubt about that in my mind. They got the number one pick. They got a complete stud winger. He's going to come in. He's going to score a ton of goals. And, then they traded for Dach. And there was even rumors that they were going to trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois. So, I mean, and then they followed that up by trading away Petrie for a pretty solid deal. I mean, if Matheson can... everyone wants to say Matheson wasn't that great in Florida, but he had a huge rebound year last year on the Penguins, and it's whether they win totally on that is whether he can keep that up. And on going to a worse team, I doubt that he's going to have quite the season, but even if he can have like 75% in that season and flip them, I mean, that's just a great offseason.
Yeah, and I mean, to look at their goaltending again, obviously losing Carey Price is huge. He's one of the best goalies of all time. But they do have Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault. Like, that isn't bad. Like, that's better than a lot of teams' goaltending. I'm assuming that Doc's probably going to take second-line center. Dvorak is not great. Is Drouin playing? The guy has missed more games than anybody in the last 2 years.
If I recall, he's healthy. It was all personal issues. So
he's got that Jonathan Tayloritis.
I'd imagine he's gonna start training camp, see how he does through it, and I imagine he's gonna be on the roster this year. But you never know.
Do you think Slav makes it?
You're gonna have to wait how he sees in training camp. He's gonna get his 9 games. From the few I've seen out of him, in the camps, he's been incredible. He's a monster. He's huge.
Yeah, he's massive.
I know he's got skill. He's got the size.
It looks like he has to beat out Joel Armia.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's going to be hard. Joel Armia is a fantastic player.
even then, like
but-
a year in the minors could do him some good too. So either way, it's really not a big deal. The kid's a stud.
I don't know if he has CHL rights, so I don't know. Like, obviously, last year he played in Europe, but I don't know if he has CHL rights, in which case that they'd have to send him to juniors. I think that's a horrible idea. He's way too big to go to juniors. Both of the guys, the main pickups they had on draft day were Doc and Slapkovsky. Both of them are 6'4".
Yeah.
So I think Montreal just needs to keep on doing what they're doing. I don't think there's much else that they are going to finish last in the Atlantic Division just because in talent they are the least talented team. But that's not saying much. I think that this division happens to be one of the more stacked divisions in the league. You've
Kind
got
of overnight.
yeah, I mean, last year they had what 3 in the bottom 10.
Last
in
year,
Buffalo,
I would
Detroit,
say they
and
were
Montreal, but
I would say they were only slightly better than the Pacific, but this year, I mean, they probably leapfrogged the Central.
well, all
but,
3
yeah.
of the teams that were at the bottom just got way better, and that's not even including Ottawa, which we'll get to. So the next team on the docket is the Ottawa Senators. So they acquired Jacob Larson, which is the least of the acquisitions because they also got Claude Giroux, Cam Talbot, and Alex DeBrincat. They re-signed Norris to an 8-year, under $8 million a year contract, and they lost nothing.
Are they even
Garbage.
why even bother reading those names?
Yeah, I mean, some of them are good. Like
Tierney,
Connor
yeah.
Brown's good.
Chris Tierney's all right.
They dumped Murray for
Yeah,
nothing.
Dumping Murray's, it's sad to see him do what he's doing right now, but hopefully he can rebound in Toronto. But
Rebounding in Toronto does not exist.
I don't think they're going to miss Michael Delzato. I don't think they're going to miss
I'm
Victor
gonna miss
Mite.
Michael Delzato. I'm gonna miss Michael Delzato.
Like, this team has the potential to not just jump one of the teams above them from last year, but
Well, I mean, like we'll just start with the clear. It was once again a draft day steal. Chicago just gifted Ottawa a 40 goal scorer.
yeah.
And like the going rate on 40 goal scores, they should have paid twice as much. I mean, it was like 2 first-round picks, and I don't even remember.
That was it.
They not even. Yeah, if there was a prospect, I don't even remember him. That's where he's at. So, I mean, just adding a 40 goal scorer to a team that was already up and coming, and you combine that with Giroux.
I mean, I think that they had a young team last year, right? I think you had a really strong group of, their top 6 is pretty strong. But I mean, adding Giroux, a veteran in the league, right? I mean, people might have their issues with Giroux, but I think he brings a lot of presence in a locker room. I think he's going to do great. And then you add DeBrincat, right? I mean, DeBrincat is going to be absolutely insane for them. Right now, it looks like they have him slated to be on the second line with Stützle and Giroux. I mean, and then they locked up Batherson. I think Batherson is, going to be one of the, better forwards in the league coming up in the next few years. So, I mean, it all just depends on how things go, but I really think that Ottawa's going to be a sleeper pick this year. Adding Cam Talbot is, 10 steps ahead of what Matt Murray was. Matt Murray was great in Pittsburgh for us, but, after he left, he fell down pretty hard and pretty quick. So
Yeah, I'm calling it now. They're going to have a top 5 power play in the league.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the most offensively gifted teams in the league at this point.
I don't want to get into this too much because I don't know what's happening. Nobody really knows what's happening, but Drake Batherson is involved in those Hockey Canada allegations. I mean, hopefully that doesn't have an effect on their team, and I don't really want to get into it that much because that's out of everybody's control. But I do think that Ottawa has a very good chance at leapfrogging a couple of the teams that finished ahead of them last year in the division.
I have them wild card.
I have them higher than that.
Well, they're not going to take the Lightning. They're not going to take the Leafs, and they're not going to take the Panthers. So
I'll
that's
go
wild card.
I'll go on record right now. I think they can take the Leafs. I am not impressed with the Leafs. The Leafs have one of the worst defenses in the entire division, and they have the worst goaltending combo in the division.
I'll probably get flamed for saying it, but you don't like Gio?
No, I don't like him. 39-year-old Mark Giordano
is absolutely terrible. Why they traded for him at the trade deadline last
He's
year?
fine.
Okay, but he's fine, but he's not going to win you a Stanley Cup.
No.
He's
I
not the
thought
guy.
he was terrible.
He is not the
against
guy.
Tampa Bay.
He's not the guy you bring in to say, okay, this is going to be our guy that holds down our defense, and our power play one is going to win us a cup.
Unless Liljegren just manages to become a god, the Leafs' defense is not good enough. I am curious to see how Jake Sanderson does on Ottawa this year.
I'm curious that you're gonna trash on the Leafs defense here, then you look at Ottawa's defense here, and it's not any better.
I'd take Shabbat over
I mean,
all
Shabbat's-
7 of the Leafs
Shabbat's
defensemen.
super talented, but look at the other.
I would take
If
Shabbat
you wouldn't even call him
alone.
5, I mean,
I would
Shabbat
take
plays
Shabbat
35 minutes
alone
tonight,
over
but like,
every
what
Leafs
about the
defenseman.
other 5? I just not seeing
Well,
it.
I wonder how Sanderson's going to do, and I've still heard that Ottawa's pushing super hard on Chikrin, and
Well,
if
if that happens, we'd have
happens,
to reevaluate. That'd be
If
completely
there's
different.
if there's a chink in Ottawa's armor, it's going to be their defense.
Yeah.
Their top 2 is okay. Like Eric said, Shabbat is one of the best defensemen in the league right now. Put him top 5. But with that being said, the rest of the 5 are hit or miss. So
they're all
if they
the
fail
top
somewhere,
5.
that's where it's going to be.
Top 5 power play. I'm bottom 5 penalty kill. I mean, like it's bubble team status. They're going to be able to win some games, 10-0. But at the same time, it's.
I
they're
agree.
not-
I agree with the wild card. I think that they do make it to the playoffs. How far they go is
I
questionable.
think they're kicking Boston out.
But I don't. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, a lot of young kids with a lot of talent. I'm excited to see them play this year. I think it's gonna be a good season for
I also just
Ottawa.
want to briefly touch on Matthew Joseph. Like, what a trade that was.
yeah, I mean Nick Paul was great,
Yeah.
but Matthew Joseph is also
They
great.
turned a career third liner into a kid who's already won a Stanley Cup. He's seen what it takes. He had a terrific, whatever you want to call it, post trade deadline for them last year.
Right now they've got Pinto slotted in between Joseph and Formenton. Does Grieg make the team?
I still think he's gonna simmer for another year, but I wouldn't be surprised after that World Juniors performance to see him make it.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
thi-
you're
I
talking
think-
about their penalty kill. The kid
I
just
think he's
was
a
unreal.
incredible penalty killer, and I think for the next 10 years he'll do that for them, but I'm not sure if he's quite ready.
All right, moving on to the next team.
Also, to
we've
go
got-
back on the record, I for sure just said they locked up Drake Batherson, and it's Josh Norris. So, I'm an idiot. You guys better get used to this because this is a very common thing. Oh my God, we were at Detroit, and it's just a lot of contract signings, but they did a lot this offseason.
They did a lot because I think that Yzerman I think Yzerman's getting sick of it, and like they're not gonna be bad enough to get a top 5 pick. So why not just go out and get some guys and see what you can do?
Yeah, I think so. We don't have to go through every single one of these people. There are quite a few that are nameable. Kubalik, I think they got him on a great contract. I think he was okay in Chicago. I think him coming
Yeah,
into
that's another one of those
system, he's gonna be
Chicago
great.
gifts.
Yeah, Chicago. We'll get to Chicago when we get there, but Chicago's an absolute nightmare right now, and I'm appalled at what they're doing. Sherratt, I think that's a pretty good contract, under $5 million for 4 years. I mean,
Love me, Benny.
I think worst case scenario, he's a trade bait when time comes. If he
He
needs
got a
to
first last year.
be. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um,
Or maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember.
you guys might not like Perron. I think Perron's a great winger.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
just old,
he
but yeah,
shows,
he's
he shows a lot of. He has a lot of potential in the power play. He did when he was in St. Louis. He was pretty shitty with the Pens, but that's besides the point. He was great with St. Louis. I'm excited to see what he does in Detroit.
Andrew Kopp
was good on Vegas,
also
too.
fantastic. Andrew Kopp.
Andrew Kopp
Yeah, I
was
mean,
one that I did not expect.
What a
to happen.
surprise last year. I've watched him for years on the Jets, and he's always been that bubble between a third liner and a second liner, and
Yeah.
then he gets traded to the Rangers, and all of a sudden he's scoring a goal a game. I mean,
He was
where did
absolutely
that
insane
come
last
from?
year. I think Kopp's a really good pickup for them. And then I think the last thing to kind of note on this is the pickup of Ville Husso.
I
you know,
love Husso.
I think that's a great between him and Nedeljkovic. I think Detroit has one of the stronger goalie pairs in the league. Me and Eric were talking last night. What do we think they're going to do with that? I mean, Nedeljkovic might take a bench, but we also think it might be a 1A, 1B situation. I think they're both really good goalies. I think Nedeljkovic started coming into his own. Last season he had a couple games where he got absolutely annihilated. But I mean, I still think that they're going to have a really good defensive tandem.
And I mean, like if you compare what they lost to what they acquired, they lost Thomas Greiss and Mark Stahl.
Yeah.
That is not worrisome.
Sevens for Stahl.
I mean-
sevens.
That's not worrisome whatsoever.
So what they basically did is they signed a bunch of support, and that's okay because Detroit's always had good top end skill. I mean, they got Raymond and what the hell's his name?
Rana,
Well, yeah, Rana.
Larkin.
Larkin.
Dylan-
That's
Dylan
Larkin.
Bertuzzi.
So I mean, like they've always had guys that can score. They just never had that backup, and
And I think
I think this is finally they tried to get it, and there's not locked in long term, so it's going to be movable.
well, it's crazy too that every single one of the players that they signed for under $6 million a year.
Yeah, they're
Like,
very movable. They're very
worst
not
case,
locked in.
they
No
just
one
get rid of
signed
them.
long term for lots of money.
I mean, I still think that the first line they had last year looks like what still have it. Raymond, Larkin, and Bertuzzi, I think, is a disgusting line.
We just completely forgot about
Bertu-
the best of them all, Sider. I mean,
Yeah.
what
Morgan
is this kid? The second
Morgan
coming
Seider-
of Lidstrom?
Morgan
Jeez, this guy
Seider,
is a monster.
All they did was give him extra help on the defense. I think he's going to have another great season. He's obviously their number one defenseman. I mean, Robbie Fabry, he's on IR right now, but I mean, is that how big of a hurt to them?
I like
is
the
that?
Wallman pickup too. When they traded Letty for Wallman, they traded the worst defenseman, the worst older defenseman, and got the younger, better defenseman out of it. I don't know. I think that was a good trade. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're making the playoffs. I don't think they're really even
Yeah,
close.
that's the thing. I still don't think this is enough.
I still think they're probably 2 or 3 years out, at the least, right? I still think that these kids get younger. They get better. They continue to add people to their team. I think that they really have a strong future ahead of them. I don't think it's anytime soon.
I like that they just keep stealing players from the Blues and the Blues and Blackhawks. I mean, like, look at this: Kubalik, Suter, both guys that played with Patrick Kane put up almost a point per game. Now they're on the third line of Detroit.
Sundqvist?
They get Sundqvist
Yeah.
and Wallman and Fabry from
Perron.
St. Louis
Perron.
and Perron
Yeah.
from St. Louis. Yeah, I mean,
they got good support. How far they can go depends on how far Larkin, Raymond, and Sider will take them.
yeah.
And those 3 players are phenomenal, but when you compare them against the rest of the league, you're still wanting a little more.
Yeah,
You're still middle of the road with those.
Yeah.
Their entire plan also hinges on how Verona does. I think, like, if he actually scores 30
he didn't
plus-
play much at all last year.
No, he was
Yeah.
He was
for
hurt
most
a
of the
lot of the
year.
season.
So adding it is basically adding Verona just because he didn't play last year.
Sure.
So I mean, you take that team, you add Verona, where do they end up? It's still probably middle of the road, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't see them making the playoffs,
I mean,
but that's not saying much against them. Like, they're a young team; they're going to get better. They brought in veteran leadership to help them get those younger kids to the place where they need to be.
They were fun to watch last year.
yeah, I
and
mean,
it's going to get even
yeah.
better. I think that they're still just missing that one huge offensive player that just kind of blows it out of the water. I mean, obviously those are hard to get. I'd like to see Larkin step in and take that role. He had a really good season last year. I'd like to see him do better. If he can step it up and kind of take that over, maybe we'll see a better season from Detroit. But right now it's they're still about middle of the road.
I don't think that they have any real room in their lineup for any of the young kids that they have. But just to double check, they do have a few. They've got Elmer Soderblom. They've got Joe Veleno.
Isn't Casper good?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Marco Casper is
Marco.
also really good. They've got a bunch of kids, but I don't. Looking at their lineup, they got Simon Edvidson, who's fantastic. They also have Sebastian Casa. Watching the World Juniors was like watching a Detroit rookie showcase. There was like 8 of them. They have a lot of these kids that they could make the lineup. I don't see them making the lineup. I just don't see the room for them. Though Veleno's got to get on it here. He's entering the time frame of not making it to the league.
That's true.
So he's on a contract.
If there's
this year,
anyone
right?
that I trust,
Yeah.
it is Stevie Y to head this, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's-
no matter what, he will take them there.
Is there a better GM in the league right now? I mean, honestly, I don't know. You could say Tampa Bay.
He built Tampa Bay.
I would say it's
That's what
really
I'm
hard to
saying.
just classify GMs as better than each other. Building a team from nothing, I would say I want Stevie Y. But I mean, there's different,
They're obviously different situations.
Yeah.
I understand completely.
like maintaining a contender. I'd probably still stick with, maybe like the Penguins or the
Yeah.
Capitals or in that scenario. Even Tampa, I guess that's still Stevie Y.
you know what makes me laugh is Eric was talking about how Montreal's going to finish last in the division and forgot that Buffalo exists.
Buffalo's going to finish. above
Buffalo's going to
Montreal.
finish.
I
above
guarantee
them,
it.
yeah.
I guarantee it.
If Tage Thompson has another year like that,
I just hate Buffalo so
They
much.
didn't add much. They didn't add much from outside of the organization.
No, not at all. They signed Olofsson, which is a really good. I mean, it's only a 2-year contract, but for under $5 million, he's been a solid piece of their team for the past few years.
Boy, Jacob Bryson getting
yeah,
paid.
Okay. Also, everybody, they re-signed Craig Anderson. How old is he now?
42.
Okay.
But they have my boy Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who should get some starts this season.
I'll give you $5 to spell that.
no shot.
I'll give you 100.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah, I mean, like he should get some shots at net, at least a couple games. They got Eric Comrie as their backup.
Excuse me, Eric Comrie.
It's a 2-year.
It's
Okay,
fine.
listen, we're talking
He's
about
fine.
we're talking about goalie tandems.
Relax. He's likely to
1A.
get waived 2 weeks
Okay,
in the season
1A,
and picked back up
1B,
by the
your
Jets.
1A, 1B is Eric
He's gonna
Comrie
find
and
his way
Craig,
back to the Jets in
Craig
2 weeks.
Anderson,
Fine.
Robbie.
How many times have they done that now?
Like 4, maybe 3, 4.
I'm sorry. I really think that Buffalo has a lot of strong young kids. T.H. Thompson's one of the most fun players to watch in the league for me. He's just a big monster dude, and he just gets stuff done.
You know, he's actually not that young though.
How old is he?
Higher 20s, I thought.
Tage Thompson is 24.
Okay,
Okay,
he's 24. Robbie's wrong.
Older, but yeah, I'm wrong.
But I mean, outside of Tage Thompson, like Olofsson, I mean,
You still got
You're
Dahlin.
wrong.
okay, Darlene had a
Yeah.
good season.
Darlene and Owen Power.
Yeah, and Owen Power. They got
I
really
saw-
good.
I saw a
decor
chart.
coming up.
I saw a chart on Reddit the other day that
Oh,
was
God, Reddit.
the AHL performers based on like high danger chances and how well they performed in them.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I noticed in the first 20 seconds of looking at that chart is there were 3 Sabres in high danger chances in the AHL: Jack Quinn, Peyton Krebs, and John Jason Paterka. All 3 of them could get playing time next year.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them are, well, first off, Jack Quinn is going to be on their first line next year, and Jack Quinn is phenomenal. Every time I've seen Jack Quinn play, he puts pucks in nets. He's disgusting.
He does hockey things.
JJ Paterka is 20 years old. He'll be on the team next year for at least a little while. And then they got Power and Darlene on the D. They're going to be so much better than they were last year. It's ridiculous.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I'm not. They still have Jeff Skinner, and that shit just makes
Yeah,
me
but
laugh.
like, I mean, obviously he's overpaid and it's a horrible contract. But even then, he still didn't do that bad last
No,
year.
I mean,
he
it's just-
was like 25, maybe 25 goal scorer. I mean, it's not horrible, you know. Like it's still pretty good. But I mean, obviously he's overpaid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
They gotta bump Jacob Bryson. What are they
It's hard
doing?
for me to root.
Huge
It's hard
Jacob
for me to
Bryson fan.
see Buffalo doing
Owen
well.
Power. That's
Jacob Bryson's better.
Jacob Bryson is 100% not better than Owen
We'll,
Power.
we'll see what they do. I'm not confident in
Oh,
Buffalo.
God, those
Yeah,
goalies.
The Anderson Comrie pair
Oh.
isn't great, but I
Buffalo's
would, I
gonna
would
Buffalo.
expect. I would
But
expect.
I don't think they're
Ukko-Pekka-
competing, so I don't.
Yeah, they're
it doesn't
not.
matter. I mean,
And I would expect Ukko-Pekka Lakonen to get some games. I mean, he's tall. I think he's
Scrub
like
a little bit.
6'6".
We'll see what happens. Buffalo's not on my radar.
Middle
to do
shot.
anything.
power play, go down, power play.
Mittelstadt needs to
Do something. Yeah, you're right. He does.
Yeah, I mean that's an alright power play. You know, it's
I
still.
wouldn't even s- I
it's
don't
it's
even think
not
this is gonna
lethal,
be-
but it's gonna score some goals.
I don't even think this is going to be their power play though. Like first off, I think Power's a better.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Power's a better quarterback. Thompson's fine there.
Man,
Skinner,
Power has
Tuck
looked
is
good.
Yeah, Power's going to
Yeah.
be phenomenal. Next team up is the Boston Bruins. So the only move that the Boston Bruins made was
Zacha?
trading Holla for Zacha,
Yeah.
which is at best a wash. And they brought Krejci back.
Kincaid's an alright backup at this point.
Is he even going to play? They got Swayman and Olmark.
You know, they stayed the same. That's not what I like to see. When
No.
the rest of
No,
the
what-
division got
Better?
gifts from Chicago. I mean, they were barely hanging on. I think they've basically made it because of the play-ins and because of COVID and some other stuff. The divisions were a little funky for a little bit. I think that's the only reason they've even stayed in the playoff contention. I think they're done.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. I mean, they looked pretty shaky last year. I mean, I just don't see how they do it. The best thing that happened from this offseason is they got their 1C back for like under $2 million. I know it's only for 1 year, but I think it's all Bergeron has left.
I think they're banking on Hall.
And Krejci.
Yeah, Krejci coming back and him and Hall coming. Hall needs to score 40 goals for me to even care about them.
I'd agree with that. I mean, Zacha for Holla. I mean, who cares?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
this
just
is not.
that's just nothing for nothing.
You know, when I used to think of Boston, I used to think of a team that was big. They were scary. You know, they're gonna beat the shit out of you. I just am not seeing that. These guys are gonna be
no, not at all.
pushovers.
Their defense is good. Their goaltending is good.
Their decor is locked up forever.
And their
That's
top
great.
line is good.
Yeah, I mean, their decor is locked up for literally
Taylor-
like 30 years. It's fantastic.
If Taylor
but-
Hall has a season like he did when he won the MVP with New Jersey, I think Boston is contender. But if that doesn't happen, then
then
they
go
can't-
right back to one-line
Pasta-
team, except their one line is
Pasta and
40 years
Marchand-
old.
Pasta and Marchand can't keep doing everything. I mean, if they need the rest of their team to step up, I mean, when they're relying on guys like Charlie Coyle and Craig Smith to score goals, they're doomed.
And especially if you've heard, the way Pasternak talks about his team, he has 1 foot out the door right now.
Yeah, I mean, Pasternak has been saying that he wants to win, and they aren't winning. Every single Bruins fan I've interacted with in the last 6 months is talking about how bad the Nick Foligno signing was. Who could have saw that coming?
Nick Foligno being bad?
Yeah, I mean, Trent Frederick sucks.
Craig Smith sucks.
Craig Smith is not very
No
good.
Sick sucks.
This team just doesn't.
Nebraska's ass.
If
He asked for a trade, they should just gave it to him, so that way they end up put up with his bullshit. He's terrible.
If Krejci and Hall can combine to where they did, well, not last year, obviously, because Krejci didn't play last year, but 2 years ago, Hall and Krejci did pretty well together. If they can do that again, they might have a chance. But even then, I'm not confident.
I don't think that they beat out Ottawa for a playoff spot. I don't think it happens. I think Ottawa's a better team in this situation. I mean, sure, but Boston might have some some older guys and maybe some veteran leadership in there. But I think that Boston's a worse team. I think Boston's
They
terrible.
also fired their coach, who apparently that decision was fueled by the players. I don't know, but they picked up, if I remember correctly, they picked up Jim Montgomery, who took the Stars to the Stanley Cup final in 2020. But
okay. The 2020
Once
Stanley
again,
Cup
that's
Finals.
very
Yeah.
trap heavy,
That's-
right?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
That was
I don't know
COVID
how
year,
you're going to get
anything
two
could happen.
40 goal scorers out of a trap system. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but I'm just not intimidated by them.
no,
They're
not
the-
anymore.
I think they might. Be
Of
the
course,
least
they still got
intimidating team in this-
power play is fine.
I mean, when you have
They're going to
Pasta
score a
and
goal.
Marchand
Yeah, they're
sitting
going to
there
score a
waiting to
goal.
score,
And,
of
obviously
course.
Taylor Hall power play too. I mean, they're going to
Yeah.
score some goals in the power play, all that.
It's gonna happen. I mean, they're
I'm just not scared by them, really.
Me
That's all I
either.
can say about them.
no Boston. Boston's
This is the
definitely
year they're out.
They
This
used to
is
be a
it.
powerhouse, and then it's gone downhill pretty quick.
This is it for them. This is the last year. I don't see Bergeron coming back next year. I don't see Krejci
I'm
coming back
surprised
next year.
Bergeron came back this year. to be honest with you.
I'm honestly surprised that they haven't fallen
I
apart
thought
and
that
they're
they
running
were-
it back. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're
It's-
running.
it feels like a last reunion tour to sell one more Bergeron jersey
They're selling.
to people.
They're selling
Yeah.
one more signed poster.
They need to sell that Bergeron Winter Classic jersey to everyone, and then he's out. I mean,
Yeah, that game's gonna be sick though. In Fenway, that's gonna be a dope game.
yeah.
So next up, we're moving on to Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay is obviously
What a run.
one of
Yeah.
the best teams in the
it's
league.
not over either.
No one said it's
The
over at all.
run's not over.
I think one of the most confusing contract signings that they had this season was Sergachev for $8.5 million.
I mean,
For
how you gonna
eight
tell them
years?
not?
Argue
How you
them.
gonna tell
Yeah.
them? Yeah, how
I
you
kn-
gonna say
I
no?
understand. I understand you can't argue it because of what Nurse has got, and someone like
I'll say this.
Seth Jones.
You look at what the Rangers did a while ago, where instead of overpaying their old veterans, they moved on from them. And I see that Tampa Bay just did that with their decor. They let McDonough go.
Sure.
He's too old. He
and they
still
replaced
can
him with
play.
Ian Cole.
He can still play, but who are you going to commit to? You going to commit to Ryan McDonough? Or you going to commit to your
Sergachev.
stud defenseman who's won 2 cups for you?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. It's so hard to judge how much defensemen make anymore because they're
Yeah, also, he
contracts
makes
have been
less
out of
than
control.
Seth Jones.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
When you put it in that perspective,
Yeah.
great signing. Good job. Good job, Tampa Bay. Good job. No, I mean, but so we look at some of their new acquisitions. Some minor pickups like you have Philip Myers, Hayden Fleury. I think he's a good, nice pickup. I don't know much time he's going to get, but
I'm surprised they got Nemesnikov back.
so when we get to Colorado, we're going to have some things to talk about.
yeah,
but
also-
Nemesnikov is probably one of the more surprising ones for us.
I could see him rebounding. I could see him, continuing not to really do a lot.
I think
Either
so too,
way.
which is why it's
Oh, I
very
mean-
confusing why Colorado let him go. I don't understand what happened.
He was on Ottawa.
I thought Nemesnikov.
Nemesnikov was on Ottawa last year.
Who am I thinking of that played that we were called in the
Oh, that's
playoffs?
Nichushkin.
Nichushkin.
Yeah.
Again, I mentioned it earlier. I'm kind of an idiot.
The last time Nemesnikov played on the Lightning, what did he do? Let's take a
He
look.
was all right. That's what I remember.
No, he was
Oh,
better than all right.
Make it bigger. We for sure
Yeah.
could
Oh,
not
yeah.
read that.
Control plus that bitch. There you go.
There
There you
we
go.
go.
Yeah, they traded him to the Rangers for Miller. That was that trade. But the last time he
Jinx.
played on Tampa Bay, he had 44 points in 62 games. He was playing next to Kucherov and Stamkos.
They're gonna do that to you.
Yeah, so like obviously his point numbers were inflated playing there, but who's to say they don't just put him there and he does it again?
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, like maybe they're envisioning a scenario where what happens with the points, not at 100%
wait,
like
did
last year.
Go back.
I'd also like to just mention that
He was on Dallas last year, by the way.
they replaced McDonough with
I
Ian
lost
Cole.
track of him. I knew he played on all
He,
that stuff.
he's played
Yeah,
on 5 different
yeah.
teams in the past 2 years.
Yeah. They replaced McDonough with Cole, which is fine. Like
It's-
Cole, you'll get
it's-
less offense.
Yeah, he's slightly worse. I mean, obviously, but Cole's a beast.
think-
I would rather pick him than just about every other like second, third pairing defenseman in the league.
100%. I agree with that.
The dude just has
the
what it
Penguins-
takes.
The Penguins don't win those cups without Ian Cole. And
I think there's more to that, but I don't disagree.
I mean, okay, so an Ian Cole Zach Bogosian pair is not an ideal pair.
No, I'm not.
But-
These lines are interesting. So right now on Daily Faceoff, they have him slated for Hedman and Foote, Sergachev and Cernak, and then Ian Cole and Bogosian.
But if anybody can get it done with that, it's Tampa Bay. Oh,
Yeah.
what happens? They beat Cole and Bogosian. They still have to beat Vasilevsky.
They still
so-
have the #1 power play. You still have to outscore that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this obviously isn't set in stone. Nothing's happened. This is just predictions based on just signings and where they were probably playing last year. But things could get mixed up. And again, like they just said, they still have to get past.
Yeah,
You know.
my prediction. Tampa Bay's played a lot of hockey. They just don't go as hard in the regular season as they used to. I mean, like, there's no need to.
No.
They're saving it. That's what they did. They did that last year. Didn't quite work out for them, but they still got to the. Everyone was saying they weren't even going to make the playoffs, and all of a sudden they're in the finals. I mean,
Well, I keep
see them just kind of repeating that. They're just going to float for a bit, and then they'll turn it on towards March.
I keep seeing the same thing that I saw last year and the year before. Everyone wants to say that they're not going to make it, but at the end of the day, they went to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals.
Their power play is identical.
They have the best defenseman in the league,
Best
the
goalie.
best goalie in the league, and a top 5 winger in the league.
Even
Hey,
if
you
you don't,
bet
want,
against
you could argue he's the best.
You could. I won't, but you could.
Wonder why.
But I mean, seriously, how are you going to bet against this team?
Also, they picked up Hagel. Trade
Yeah,
deadline
it was
last year.
expensive, but who's to say he just won't score 40 goals this year?
I mean, Hagel was playing out of his mind for Chicago.
If anything, I think they got better,
I do.
and
too.
that's insane.
Losing Palat hurts, but I mean,
Hagel should make up for it.
Yeah,
though.
he should.
And Nemesnikov, I think, like you said, Nemesnikov comes in and has a better season. Then he starts playing like he was. I think he'll be putting him with Nick Paul, dude. Dude, Nick Paul, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just don't.
Nick Paul's the best third liner in the league.
You could not
Well, Robbie,
pay me to bet against them.
Robbie, I don't think I can disagree with you because who gives a shit about the third line?
Go back to the last episode of Clapping Bombs, probably 3 years ago. I called it.
Dude.
I
I
don't
just
have time for that.
You keep seeing all these people online. Oh, Tampa Bay's finally going to be done. You can't bet against them.
They'll finally be done when Vasilevsky retires and so does Kucherov. That's when they're done. Until then,
And Hedman is still the best defenseman in the league.
John Cooper is still one of
Yeah, we haven't even talked
he's
about.
top-
We don't normally touch
John
on
Cooper's
coaches,
top 3
but
coaches in the league. I mean, he's.
I've seen
personally,
him
I
just
think
adapt to everything.
exactly.
You can't get me to bet against the Lightning.
It's so hard. They have all the
yeah.
pieces falling in the right place. I don't think they make it to the finals this year. I think they've simmered
No,
down
you're
just
wrong.
a little bit.
Yeah,
I picked them to win last year. I'm picking them again to win this year.
As
have-
of right now, I don't see how you
They
can
have
bet
no
against them.
competition. They've had no competition for 5 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. They do this year, but I don't think that.
We'll see. I'm not saying that they're. Again, I'm not saying count them out. My personal opinion, I don't think they make it to the finals.
I just want to say, like, it's kind of like a boo-hoo scenario, but what a run they had to go through last year to get there.
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
that was
like,
one of the toughest playoff, like, what do you call it?
had the
runs.
Rangers
Paths.
had-
Playoff
Paths.
paths to the
Thank you.
finals. Damn.
I remember reading if the Hurricanes had managed to beat the Rangers, they would have had to play number 1, 2, 3, and 7. Or no, they played 7.
Yeah.
They would have had to play
I mean,
1, 2,
that's a
3, and
slog.
5.
They had
'cause
to make
were
it
4.
through that to get there.
They had to play all of the top 4 teams except for Carolina because they lost to the Rangers, and the Rangers were number 7. So they had to beat number 1, 2, and 7.
Number 7 having the best goaltender last year. I mean, obviously you cannot count Vasilevsky, but Shesterkin had an incredible season last year.
All right, next team up, we got the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all you can say. So
So we're still winless.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
What a game 7. Let's go, Nick Paul.
I love Callie Yarncroke. I want to point that out. Callie
don't give a
Yarncroke
fuck
is
about
awesome.
that.
Okay, you know who I
Like
don't love?
Callie Yarncroke.
Jordy Ben.
Yeah, I mean,
Why?
doesn't play.
Victor
I-
what?
Okay,
They don't. They're not going to play.
So why sign him?
The
That's
glaring
ridiculous.
issue. I mean, you might want to talk about that 3 other players are signed for $12 million and they aren't getting it
That's
done.
not the main issue.
That's not the main issue.
Is
What
it
is
their
this goalie?
Is it their
tandem?
goaltending, maybe?
Yeah.
The
Hey,
goaltending is
Hey, you
so
think maybe
bad.
the goaltending might be the problem, Robbie?
What is this?
So listen.
They let go of Campbell Soup, who
Soup.
Soupy, yeah, who got a pretty reasonable contract. I mean, starter goaltenders make twice that nowadays.
I
Look at
think-
Bob, look at Price. What did they do?
So after Campbell had the season he did last year, I was like, okay,
Resign him.
Toronto found their goalie. They're going to be all right. They might have a chance. I know that they still need to do a lot of work because they have a lot of money invested into 3 players, but they have a decent goaltender. They can do something. They can start building around this. And then they let him walk away. They said, close the door. You're not coming back.
We're gonna go with Washington's B goalie
And Matt Murray. Their goalie tandem is Matt Murray and Samsonov. Honestly, that could not be the opposite ends of what they should have
Austin
done.
Matthews scored 60 last year and they couldn't get it done. How in the world?
He's going to have to
are they
score
gonna-
70 to
He's gonna score
outscore that
85.
goal.
Listen, Matthews has done nothing but get better at hockey. You can't deny it. He's not. I don't think he's going to score 60 again this year. I think that's unrealistic. But the fact that they just got worse, I don't understand how you get worse from where they were.
Well, here's the thing: you'll run into Leafs fans online that'll be like, "Well, they already had the 4th worst goaltending."
Oh yeah,
in
I'm
the
sorry.
league."
Campbell's weaknesses.
Yeah.
There was reports online and people arguing this that Campbell's weakness is he is weak against shots in the slot.
And tips. Don't forget tips.
deflection.
Oh, and,
You
and
know-
deflection goals where they have the hardest probability to save, but that's his weakness.
And
Two
they,
of the
they
hardest.
Instead, they got rid of him and got a goalie with an actual weakness of high glove shots.
I
and
mean,
then an actual
I-
weakness of literally
Yeah.
everything.
of being a goalie. I don't understand what Toronto's doing.
Samsonov-
They're always the running joke of the league for missing the playoffs and getting knocked out of the first round. But I mean, they're not helping themselves out. I don't understand what they're doing. It's honestly a joke at this point.
Tavares needs to step up.
Tavares has been absolutely awful.
I mean,
since
I
he
cried
showed up.
when Tavares died, but also
I think
he
everybody
needs to
cried a
step
little bit.
up.
Yeah, he does. And
There's no doubt about it.
I mean, okay. The newest rumor online is that somehow the Toronto Maple Leafs, like Bissonnette's got it all over his Twitter, somehow they think that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to, 1, be able to afford, and 2, be able to get Patrick Kane. How?
There's no way.
There's no way.
Here's the thing. They have to get rid of one of their $12 million players, and nobody is taking
First
that.
off, that would be a
Yeah,
trade that the
also-
Blackhawks would actually manage to win.
Also, they just
But-
already have right wings. Like,
Yeah.
where's he gonna play? Third.
Well, Marner, Nylander, Yarncroke, and Abu Kubel, right? So I mean that's a solid set of wingers. I mean they're not. I mean they're all.
You're not getting
Nylander to the
marginally.
third line.
What do you do? Put Patrick Kane on your third line?
I realize what I'm about to say sounds a bit ludicrous, but you're only getting marginally better.
I agree.
Like, obviously, Kane's amazing. He's one of the best players
Yeah,
of all
but
time.
when you bump Nylander down, you're diminishing what he can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You,
It just
you
doesn't
get
make sense.
marginally better from that trade. It doesn't make sense, and it's bad.
Absolutely. And the problem, like we said, nobody's taking these contracts. So
They
they're
have
stuck
offense.
with these dudes until
I'm
they
not even
retire.
denying it. They have offense. They score goals all the time.
They still have Wayne Simmons.
Well,
Let's
another thing is can Bunting do what he did last year again?
I don't think so.
He's 27, 28.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Matthews bumping off pucks off him. I mean, if Matthews has chemistry with him, why not?
But if he can't do it again,
I think the thing I see when I look at Toronto is, you look at other teams that are winning and they're having fun. I don't see that from Matthews. I mean, I might get flamed for saying that, but I just don't see it. He never looks happy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Matthews, they're going to have to figure out a way to find another 50 goals to
I mean,
offset
he looks like he's the only one taking it seriously. I know they all are, but
I don't see it.
Oh, you didn't like when Nylander didn't hustle? You didn't like
I think how good their right wing side of the ice is. You look at the left wing and it's just an absolute joke. I mean,
we're getting to the point where you got to stop making excuses for them.
I'll give them credit. They went up against Tampa Bay, who I just said had no competition, is the best team in the league for the last 5 years, blah, blah, blah. I'll give them credit. They went toe-to-toe with them.
They took them to 7,
they did,
right?
But they've taken every team the last 5 years.
Okay,
to
I'm just asking.
They took them to 7 World Classic leads. They had a 3-1 lead, or was it 3-2? Either way, they should have capitalized on that.
Absolutely.
Well, they had that goal that Tavares scored that got called back, and that
I
just
understand.
ruined them.
Oh, boo-hoo. Score more
It's
Tavares,
still
make $12 million
excuses. If you want to win the cup, you have to overcome those.
There's no excuses when it comes to trying to win hockey.
And I mean, let's be honest, the reason that they had to get rid of Campbell is because they're paying everybody else on their team too much. So now they've got 2 goalies that
they lost.
aren't good.
Yeah, they lost Campbell.
Go back to what are they paying Murray and Samson?
It's less. It's about $1 million or $2 million less.
No, it's not.
They're paying Matt Murray.
It is $1 million more for the two of them compared to
Matt
Campbell.
Murray almost $5 million.
You can't compare it like that.
How can you?
You still have to have a backup either way.
What was wrong with Colgren?
How can you look at Matt Murray and justify $5 million?
The goaltending. The goaltending was not the issue.
No, it wasn't.
It's
but
not.
Now it is.
Yeah, but now it is. Yeah, they just created a problem.
It doesn't make sense. I mean,
I'm sure we'll get to it when we get to Edmonton. But their issue was goaltending, and by signing Campbell, it evaporated.
Yeah, I don't understand this team, and
it's impossible to understand the Leafs because they do nothing but dumb shit. Simple as that.
Now again with the rookies,
No reinforcements.
No. Beniers. Does Beniers make the team?
Never even heard of him, so I don't care.
I'll be honest.
The American kid.
The rookies and the people in the AHL are not my forte. That is 100% Eric when it comes to that. So I don't know anything about.
What about
these kids.
Niemela?
Yep. See, I have no. That dude's name is Toppy, and that's a sick ass name. But I don't know these kids, so I'm just gonna stay quiet.
I mean, yeah, I think I saw him at the World Juniors a couple years ago.
Jordy Ben.
Maybe they come in and make an impact. I just don't see it being.
Wait, Jordy Ben is 35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't see. I don't.
They'll make the playoffs.
I'm not even
How?
confident in that. I think Ottawa could hop them, and Boston could just do what Boston's done for the last decade and just continue owning their franchise.
I'll compare it to the Caps over the last 10 years. I mean, the Caps have had some weaknesses in the past with some stuff, and Ovi just carries them. I can see that happening with. I mean, Matthews is going to carry them to the playoffs. They're not going to not make it.
I don't think so. I don't think
Matthews is still generational. He's going to make the playoffs.
The 2 locks you have Tampa Bay and Florida. Florida's not missing the playoffs.
No way.
And Ottawa's gonna beat out the Leafs. The Ottawa's just a better
They
team
could,
right now.
but I mean, even then, they'll still be in wild card. They're gonna make the playoffs.
I don't know. I don't think Tampa Bay. I don't think Toronto.
Unless you think 2 people in the Metro are gonna take them.
The Metro.
Which I mean, yeah, you're right. That could
the
happen.
Metro
The Metro's extreme.
It's the strongest.
You're asking like the Devils to take them, which I'd probably put money on that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't have any confidence in the Leafs to get it done. I don't. And then and if they do miss. Say goodbye to all of the stars because they'll all leave.
Unless Toronto gets a significant win this year, and I'm not talking a first round win. That is not enough. I'm talking they need a conference final. Yeah, a conference final. Matthews is leaving.
Matthews is out of there in a heartbeat, and he will go to whatever team he wants.
Someone like Arizona or whoever will pay him $15 million.
Yeah,
easily.
Well, how many years is Austin? Austin has
2.
2. Okay, he has 2 years left. Yeah, I think
that dude is ultra competitive.
He might be one of the most competitive players in the league right now.
I look at him and he is not happy with where he's at.
No.
He will go somewhere else to take that next step.
Go scroll down for a second. I know you guys can see what we're looking at, but almost all of their forwards are on contract years, and they're all almost UFAs.
Yeah, well, all of the ones that don't really matter, but at the same point, those are the guys that you need.
Exactly, because the guys that do matter are all making $12 or $11 million.
And they aren't. They are producing, but are they? They aren't producing where it matters.
It's not enough.
Matthews scored 60 goals. Great. What did they do? lost in the
Yeah,
first round
you know,
again.
if a team gets defensive issues, which is I'm predicting they're going to have this year with that goalie tandem, you know, I mean that
that
gets under your skin when your goalie, like, you're putting 60 goals up and the rest of your team is just letting in goals all the time.
And
That gets under your skin.
That doesn't even go into the fact that their defense sucks too.
I
Yeah.
think the only light in Toronto's defense is Morgan Riley being at $7.5 million. I think he's still a really good defenseman. I don't think he's the top 5, top 10 in the league. I think he's a very good defenseman, and they have him on a good contract compared to what everybody else is looking at right now.
Yeah,
so.
he's fine, but
He's still not like I wouldn't put him that like de facto number 1. You know, like he's solid.
Sure.
I have no complaints with Morgan Riley. I like Morgan Riley, but like he is not Victor Hedman. He's not Makar. You need that to win.
Muzzin can't stay healthy.
No,
And-
I like Jake Muzzin, but they're just playing him. They're leaning on him way too much.
I didn't know they'd paying TJ Brody $5 million a year.
Yeah, I mean,
There's so
I'm
much money
sorry,
tied
but
up in just an average of the road players.
I'm sorry, but I've been incredibly unimpressed with Kyle Dubas's management of this team. It's been terrible. He caves to all of his players' demands.
His players are stiff arming him left and right.
He caved to Matthews walking straight to free agency the minute he could.
You know, I think a big issue. I've already called it out, but the big issue here is they pay John Tavares based on what he was doing, and he just where is that? Where
He's in
has
his
he
Toronto
been?
PJs chilling at
Yeah,
home.
I mean, even though he's still getting first line power play, he should
How
be
many
scoring.
How many games did he play last year? Did he play all 82? I feel like he was a
I
new
don't
part
think
of
he
the
played all
season.
82, but he played in 79, so he missed.
Oh,
30.
he missed 3 games. Okay, so I mean, he still
Sure,
put
he's
up
a point per
76.
game,
He
but
put up 76 points. I mean, that's more than I expected.
And
than I thought.
I get that you can say that they did well this postseason because they did. I mean, Tavares did show up. He had 6 points in 7 games, but it still just isn't enough.
Yeah,
They,
I mean,
they need that from all of them. When Jason Spezza is consistently your best playoff performer, you need to do something.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Hey, at least
like,
Matthews scored a goal for the first
yeah,
time
I
in
mean,
the league.
I get that they did okay, but they need better than okay. They're not going to make it out of this division if they
okay
can't
doesn't
do okay.
win the Stanley Cup Finals. It doesn't.
If I was a Leafs fan, I'd be furious. But I'm not, so it's fun to laugh at them.
Well, okay, even if Matthews doesn't need it, one of the 3 will. You know,
Yeah.
Marner or Nylander's gone.
Well, I mean, they're talking-
We've all been projecting this for years. It's gonna happen.
I'm surprised Nylander was still there at the
Yeah.
trade deadline. So, all right.
Well,
enough of-
they picked Nylander to be the scapegoat this year. Like they pick
it's
guy
always
every year.
They always have to blame somebody. It's never a team problem. It's always just something else. So, moving on to the Florida Panthers.
I'm not gonna lie, they started off so bad.
The
They s-
Panthers.
Yeah, they like
What do you got against signing Anthony Boteto?
they signed Vitello,
Del Zotto,
Zotto,
Chris Tierney,
Nick
dude.
Cousins, and then they got the coach of mediocrity in Paul Maurice. Like that was just such a horrible start to their offseason. And they let Giroux go. I mean, I just thought they were gonna go from President's Trophy down to like zeros.
And
but,
then,
oh man, they turned it around.
oh boy,
Oh boy.
oh boy. Let's go to the
Yeah,
trades because that didn't show any of the trades for us for whatever reason.
I gotta be honest. I love what the Florida Panthers
We
did.
gotta talk about the blockbuster.
The trade was good. I think it
It was better than good.
I still hate that nobody wants to talk about how both teams won that trade, but they very clearly did. If we're looking at the line combinations, what they've got right now. So the trade officially was Cole Schwint, who I've never heard of, and a
who?
first-round pick in 2025.
Conditional.
Huberdeau and Uyghur for Tkachuk. Now, everybody, the minute this trade happened, immediately just jumped on the bandwagon and said, oh, Florida got fleeced. Florida didn't get fleeced. And here's why. I watched that series between the Capitals and the Panthers.
Where was Huberdeau?
Huberdeau and Uyghur were their worst 2 players. It
Not
wasn't
to
even
mention,
close.
when they moved on, he was invisible against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay completely shut him down. So if you're the Panthers, why in the world would you want to run that back with them?
Well, there was the whole controversy with the whole strip club thing, and Huberdeau was right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Uyghur was by far their worst defenseman. That play where
I
he
watched
just
one game. I watched the opening game against the Capitals, and I didn't even know who this guy was, and I wanted him benched.
that That play where he did that spinorama and just got decked by Ovi and just got the puck stolen from
I
him,
said he should
that
be
looked
benched.
like you
Yeah.
in EASHL.
Yeah.
You do that all the time. It's terrible play. You
I
don't
wanted
do
him
that.
benched after that.
I think, like you said, I think it's a win-win for both teams. I think that Tkachuk's going to bring a lot of grit to Florida that they might have been missing. I think that Florida didn't get worse. I think that they got rid of some holes. But I think Huberdeau is not a very good player. I don't like Huberdeau. I don't think he's very
He puts
good.
up points, but he's just like you said, not hard to play against. And
Yeah.
you know, now all of a sudden those contracts that I was just bashing on like a couple minutes ago, now all of a sudden it's a game plan.
Yep.
You know, now they're hard to play against. You got Delzato, Cousins, Tkachuk. These guys will piss you off.
Yep.
Well, I'll debunk every single one of the criticisms against the Florida Panthers this offseason. The first one that happened was they decided to not renew Brunette's contract. Correct decision. Brunette didn't make that team.
No.
He took over Quenneville's position where they already had won like 13 games at the beginning of the season. Do you know how hard it is to lose the President's Trophy when you go on a run like that?
He took Quenneville's systems and kept it rolling. And that's credit to him for that. But
then he didn't adjust at all in the playoffs. And
No.
they
And it showed.
almost got
Tampa
embarrassed
Bay
by
ate
Washington.
them.
Everyone talked about how Washington shouldn't have even had a chance, and they almost put. They were 3 inches away from an empty netter that would have sealed the entire series.
3 inches is a lot.
Fair, but
So what are your guys' thoughts on them not re-signing Giroux?
I think that he didn't want to. And
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just
there's only
outs-
so much you could do if he doesn't
Sure.
want to.
Yeah,
then
I mean,
I mean,
do you
obviously
think
you
that
like to run it back with
Do you think they
them, but-
pursued it, or did they
I
just
think
kind
they
of?
probably looked into it, but I think that I don't think it was necessary. I don't think that there's really a place
I mean,
for him.
he
here.
wasn't like he was okay, all right. You know, he wasn't a force in the playoffs
Sure.
or anything. Like I'd be like dying. You know, he's a lot better on Ottawa, where you know
It's
they
a lot of
need
young kids.
Yeah, they need that guy who can come in and teach them where to go. But you know, Barkov doesn't need that. You know, they need more support. I wish they would have re-signed Giroux, but it's also not the end of the world.
Yep.
But when you look at this lineup, dude, I mean, you're looking at guys that you don't.
They were all
wanna play
incredible
against.
last year. Yeah, yeah, and that too.
It has Eric's favorite player, Patrick Hornquist.
Yeah, I
Eric
can't
doesn't.
stand Patrick
Eric
Hornquist.
doesn't dislike a player more than Patrick Hornquist.
I
Patrick
don't like
Hornquist.
Hornquist, but the point is he's another one that you know who else hates Patrick Hornquist?
Everybody-
Everybody that plays
Every
him.
goalie who's ever worn a jersey in the game
whoever
in the
is in front of the
NHL.
net trying to get him out of the crease because
Who's that
he's-
Zamboni driver? That guy hates Patrick
Patrick
Hornquist.
Hornquist gets in front of the net and he does not move. He battles and he. Oh my God! I love Patrick.
They have Radko Gudas. They have Patrick Hornquist.
Not to mention they added to the guys that they already had.
Nick Cousins, Sam Bennett, Matt Tkachuk, Barkov, and Lundell.
Tkachuk
are
is gonna
massives.
cause chaos in the Atlantic Division.
This team went overnight. They said, "How can we compete with the teams that are higher skilled than us?" Well, the only way to do that is to get guys that have grit but also skill, and
you
that's
can't
what they
score if you're on the floor.
did. And that's what they did. They have instantly made themselves the hardest to play against team in the league. They're going to beat you down and grind you out until you give up.
Do you think they go back-to-back presidents?
No. I
No?
don't think they win the President's Trophy, but I think they do better in the playoffs because this is a playoff team.
Do you think they
this is what the Capitals? This is how the Capitals won a cup. This is how the Bruins won a cup. This is how the Tampa Bay Lightning won the first 2 cups.
Sure.
They are a mean, drag you down, beat you into the ice, and score that way. They aren't going to score flashy goals, but they don't need
You
to.
know, but they also can. Barkov
they
can
can.
score at will.
Barkov is
Bennett,
Matt
Reinhardt.
Tkachuk can put the puck between his legs.
Yeah,
and score.
I mean,
Like-
Verhaeghe is apparently a god.
yeah,
if-
he ruins my
in,
dreams.
so I mean, like it's not
What's
like
the
they
goalie
can't score. They're
situation?
still gonna have
we
an
didn't touch on the goalie
incredible-
situation. What are we looking at
They
here?
got
So Bob is still.
Bob and Knight. Yeah, Knight's one of the best young goalies in the league. I put my money on him just running away with the league at some point.
And this for the first time in a bunch of years,
Bob was all right.
wasn't Bob's fault.
I was trying to trash
go,
on
Bob.
Bob. I couldn't even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love what the Panthers did.
Yeah, we also got
we
Duclair.
forgot about
He's
Duclair
out.
'cause
Yeah,
he's
that's-
out. I
that's
mean,
a big. It's a lot of
I
goals
think
too.
That's. I like Florida. I think
Eric Stahl is also on a tryout deal.
I think they're taking first in the Atlantic.
I do too.
I mean,
I don't think
I'm going.
I think Tampa Bay is still a very strong team, but I think that Florida
Tampa
did
Bay's
nothing.
not going to turn it on till the end.
No, I think
They're
Florida
saving
did
it.
nothing but get stronger and, like Eric said, more gritty.
You know,
think it's gonna be
like
insane.
the big difference between them and Tampa is Tampa Bay's not hungry. You know, they've got cops. They're gonna keep running it back, but they're trying
Florida
to
has been
extend. Yeah,
Florida has
Florida's
been this
hungry,
close.
yeah.
Past couple years,
you know,
Florida's
and they're-
been close.
You know, if they get some fans, they're all of a sudden into it because you know they saw a huge spike in their performance.
Yep.
So I would go Florida, Lightning,
So
Leafs.
wait, hang on one second. So we got to the end. We just finished all the Atlantic teams going through the offseason. So, Robbie, we'll start with you. Where do you think everybody finishes from your top to bottom?
Yeah, sure.
Um,
So I'm going to go with the Panthers in first, the Lightning in second. Who did I just say? The Leafs in third, and the wild card is going to be taken by the Senators. And, you know, Boston's going to miss.
Okay.
I have Florida, Tampa, Ottawa, Boston, Toronto's out.
So I also have Florida, Tampa. I think Ottawa is the guaranteed wild card. I think Toronto is better than Boston, even though I just shit all over them for the past 20 minutes. I think Boston is the worst team right now. There's a lot of Boston has gotten old. They've not done a lot to get younger. I think the only thing that gets Toronto over them is the fact that they are a little bit younger. The goaltending is about the same at this point, to be honest with you. I think Boston has a slight edge in goaltending, but Matt Murray can also pull some games out of his ass. I don't think he's the worst goalie in the league. I just don't agree with what they did.
He does
in
have
the
two cups.
goaltending
We can't
situation.
just diminish that.
No, and I'm not at all. But his
But,
past 2 years in
yeah.
Ottawa have been absolutely abysmal, and you can't just dismiss that. So, I think that this will be a very interesting season for the Atlantic. I think it's not going to change too much, but I do like Ottawa. I think that they're my sleeper team this year. I think that they're going to surprise a lot of people. I really like what they did. Hopefully, it turns out good for them.
Is the Atlantic taking the cup?
No.
No, I don't think so.
I'll stick with my guts. Tampa Bay's still getting it.
I don't think Tampa's going to win it. I wouldn't be surprised to see them at the final, though.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us for the Atlantic. Next up on the next episode, we'll be covering the Metro. Catch you there.